Well, hello everybody, and welcome to yet another sparkling edition, a holiday edition no less really, of the Inworld Review for the, 20th of April, 2010. Better get the year right, I keep slipping up on that one. And yes, we're here. We're broadcasting live. If you're watching us live from Chillbone's Second Life. And
excuse me, Mal, did you say 2010? You said 2010.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Tom.
Retro is in.
Okay, can I just get the formalities over with, please? We are broadcasting live from Chillbone's Second Life, if you're watching us live, and we're brought to you in association with A-View TV. And if you were watching us last week, perchance, we were having a sort of retrospective on Virtual World's best practices in education, and we love this open-ended format of this show, but we beat our own record. We went for slightly over 3 hours, rambling away. It was highly engaging, and I'm sure very entertaining for all of you, but I don't think we're going to be doing it for quite that long this week. We got a bit of a stripped-down show because it is a holiday. And as happens on holidays, we have a slight problem with what we affectionately in Second Life call the gremlindons. The gremlindons emerge when nobody is around to take care of business in the background of the grid and the mechanics of the platform. And for some reason, we've been hopping all over the place in World today, trying to get Inworld voice working. Now, we don't need it for this show, but we do use it to make our lips flap on screen. And if you're looking at me right now, I'm cheating because I'm wearing a thing called a mouth HUD, which allows me to fake the animation of lip movement. It's something I recommend to musicians who are often singing over a stream, and it looks very silly when you're filming them without their mouth moving. So we get them to wear this so we can film them, and they actually seem to be moving their mouths, even though it's a fake. But my apologies for the absence of lip flap in this forthcoming program, because I think only I have this little mouth HUD available, and I suddenly remembered this at the last minute. So blame it on the holidays and the gremlindons, as we say. I'm sure you can listen quite happily without actually seeing our mouths moving. So quickly into my headlines for the week. With the holiday looming, of course, it was actually in some ways quite a quiet week. Although interestingly, I picked up a post this morning from a site called Pocket-Lint. That's pocket as in the thing in your trousers, dash LINT.com. And the announcement is that the race for VR headset gaming is on, as Microsoft spend $150 million to take on Facebook and Oculus. Yes, it was inevitable. Where Apple and Facebook and Google and everybody else leads, Microsoft finally decide to jump in. And this blog post has a rather curious picture on it, which I suspect is probably an invention. If it's not, it's a very nifty looking pair of rather chunky glasses, which I would actually plausibly wear. However, I suspect it's quite a long way down the line. So go to pocket-lint.com if you'd like to read more about that. And I'm just going to put that one away because I've got 1,000 tabs here open in duplicate that I really don't need. There was also a post in the week from, it's rather late actually, for massively.com. Massively.joystick.com, in fact, reporting on this, but they've got a feature on Sony, well, it's based, I suspect, on a Sony press release, saying VR might be quite a social experience. Whether they're referring to their own kit or the way Facebook have actually taken over Oculus, they're actually saying that the take up of virtual reality headsets of a lighter or heavyweight sort might actually be an engaging social experience, which is actually a decent perspective, because we all know that even our 2D screens, showing Second Life and OpenSim and places like that, that. It is all about immersion and socializing and sort of community. So you can find that at massively.joystick.com. Right, sorry about the squeaks in the background on my other machine. We do have Maria with us, but unfortunately she had to sort of depart and then relog. So we just got a few background things here going on, getting Maria back online. Hi, Maria.
Hi, Mel. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay.
Oh, thank God.
I think we're away this time.
Oh, thank God.
Okay, if you missed it, I was just referring to the press release.
Nope. I got it.
Oh, you heard it all, right? Okay. So that's Sony's department, of course. When I bring Maria on properly in a few minutes, we will no doubt hear an awful lot about this stuff. So I'm just going through the main stuff. Bot Girl has popped up again at botgirl.com during the week with an article published on Wednesday called "The Message of the Virtual World Medium." This is just a philosophical sort of piece, really. It's not specific. It's not really specific to any virtual environment. I mean, she's going on about Marshall McLuhan and various other people who passed away rather before even the internet, let alone, well, the early days of the internet, let alone virtual worlds. But anyway, interesting piece from Botgirl there, so you get that at botgirl.com. And we were discussing proceedings of Virtual Worlds best practices last week. If you go to vwp.org, you will find they've got a nice little post up called VWP by the Numbers. These are things that weren't actually available at the time of the show last year. Unique visitors in Second Life, 3,400. Highest concurrency 446, average 92, and OS Grid unique visitors 100, highest concurrency 30, and they can't work out an average concurrency there. But interestingly, unique visitors to our broadcast via live stream were 1,000 at any given time. The highest concurrency is actually showing as 550, and I often spotted it to be more like 200 at any given time, but there are a lot of factors to take into account, like different beds in different places and multiple people watching. And that's actually very good because for us, I say, because concurrency at live stream in both 2013, 12, 11, and 10, and 9 was roughly the same every year at about 300. So we've gone up from 300 to 1,000 for this particular event, which is wonderful news indeed for both them and us in many ways. And of course, as we heard last week, next year's conference has already been scheduled. The theme is Crossroads, and it's from March the 18th to 21st, which will be 2 weeks before Easter next year. So really planning ahead there. Quite a bit. So there's the numbers on there. And we have Dan Voyager in the audience. I'd like to say hello to Dan. He's watching on the channel. Courtesy of his blog, which is also sort of courtesy of us, actually. He has a post, OpenSim Community Conference 214 and VWP 215. The OpenSim Community Conference, as we heard last week, will be from the 8th to 9th of November, 2014, and more details will be forthcoming on that. Also later in this month, I think it's barely a week or 10 days away, there is also a major mental health conference in Second Life here, put on by Virtual Ability. I know they've been doing a lot of work and getting materials and stuff ready for that. I don't really have much more details about it in terms of whether it's going to be filmed or anything, but certainly if you're into mental health issues, disability issues, really that could be a real highlight of forthcoming weeks. Not to mention some of the other highlights that Saffia will be elaborating on when she joins us in a little while. And the final blog I have open is from a website called I'm going to spell it Sequimgazette. Sequim Gazette, not Sequin. Sequim. Very strange title, that. Actually, I don't know what it means. Anyway, they have
Sequim is actually pronounced Squim, and it is the name of a small town on the north end of the Washington State Olympic Peninsula.
Oh, near you. Okay,
Yes.
well, fair enough. Okay.
That's where you got the link. It's for me.
Oh, of course, this one. Yes, okay. Okay. Sorry, Tara. Yes, of course, this is one that Tara put last week, and I actually tweeted it into my stream at the beginning of the week because it's one I'd missed. So forgive me, Tara. Of course, I'm repeating ourselves. You'll find, anyway, Tara did mention last week a blog there called Digital Me in Your World. Avatars provide real-world benefits at Squim Gazette. Sorry, Squim. It's almost as joyful as Meta Maria. We will come back to that in a while. Okay. That's just the brief things I had in front of me that we might not otherwise discuss. But we'll get more into that a bit later. For now, it will save me getting interrupted again. I'm going to hand over to Tara for her take on the week. Over to you, Tara.
Thank you, Mel. The year is 2014. And greetings from the Pacific Northwest, where you will find Squim on the map up on the north end of the Olympic Peninsula, not too far from Port Angeles. It's one of those Indian words that got a weird spelling when the original Northern European invaders renamed everything and or attempted to get their tongues wrapped around the indigenous languages. One of a number of names that people trip over in the Pacific Northwest that have Native American origins, just like there are names other places where people have trouble and do wonderful jobs of butchering them. We have our own collection, and Squim is one of them. Anyway, it occurred to me in your little news item on Microsoft getting itself into the into the virtual VR glasses realm, that the obvious look for Microsoft to go for is to model theirs after Bill Gates's glasses. Anyway, enough for that suggestion. Especially the ones from early in his career, which were probably held together by a suitable chunk of duct tape in the middle of the glasses. It's just somehow that just seems like the right visual. Anyway, well, I have some various show and tell items this week. Including a tree that I actually parked on the stage a week ago and then completely spaced on talking about. This particular tree is a weirwood tree, and I ran across it at Arcana Antiques and Oddities. The creator is Morgana Brid, and I have always had this great... I actually started fiddling with an early... mesh, a tree shape, attempting to come up with a tree with a face on it. And I came up with one, although it was fairly lame, and it was lame enough that I figured I had to go back and fiddle some more and never got around to it. But I rather liked this one, and so I picked it up. And it has some poses that are, if you click on the tree, it will run you through if you want. But it's a rather cool little tree, and it'll find a place in a park someplace. But I just thought I'd introduce that one. The sim where you can find it is Cassowary. Speaking of names I can't pronounce, Cassowary, Cassowary, and again the creator's name, if you want to look for the creator, is Morgana Brid, last name Brid. And my third introduction is sitting on the arm of the chair next to me. Every year, one of the annual times that the Kitty Cats folks introduce new kitty cats, special ones, is at Easter. And this year's they've got two different styles, and I'll introduce the other one next week. But this week's is obviously fitting of it being Easter weekend, and this is Kitty Cats, who's known as a bunny baby, and the bunny baby is sporting nothing other than a totally cute bunny onesie, so that's why she is perched on my chair, and also perched on my head is I had a great debate about what to do as far as my own attire relative to the holiday, and so I had a choice between a freebie hat or a freebie bunny onesie suit, and I decided that since I had a kitty cat with a bunny onesie suit, I really didn't want to look like twins, so I went for the hat. And the hat is one of several that are currently available if you go to the Mad Hattery and search around for the Easter eggs. So you can have your very own wonderful Easter bunny hat, and this actually, there's two different ones in two different eggs. There's a total of 7 egg prizes to find, which are all hats, oddly enough. And there's this one, and then the one that's like it is there's another one in green. So if you want one, hustle your bunny buns over to the Mad Hattery, and I'll come up with a sim name here in a minute. Maybe
there is some great stuff at the Mad Hattery. I used to take weekly trips there, and I haven't been for ages, so I'm going to have to get there.
Yeah, just a sec here. I'm oops. I just clicked on the wrong button. I'll be back momentarily. Hold on.
Oh, what, you teleported?
I teleported, yes. That wasn't what I meant to do.
We will.
Yes, moving right along. You can just look at pictures. Let's get the right. It will really help if I click on the right link. There. Okay, I'll get. All right, and that's crashed. So I can't see what I'm doing on the other screen anyway.
Unbelievable! This. I've got a notice saying Firestorm has crashed, although I do still seem to be here. So.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. I just had a crash note. That was what I was seeing too. Anyway, moving right along. I can continue to talk here, since hopefully we're still recording. One of another announcement this week that came out, or it's the official. First announcement on SL11B, the 11th birthday celebration of Second Life. The dates of that actually are June 22nd through June 29th, with an extra week after that for people to prowl the exhibits. The theme this year is from a quote by Winston Churchill: "The empires of the future are the empires of the mind." And in their news release on this, they say last year's theme was looking forward, looking back, but we focused mostly on looking back. This year, it's time to look forward, to imagine where we are headed. Applications are now open for performers, volunteers, and speakers in the auditorium, and obviously they're going to need lots of volunteers because it takes a lot of volunteers to put this together. And the application for exhibitors will open on April 27th, which is later this week.
And we will have Saffia on momentarily.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll have something
to be telling us about that, and the fantasy fair, which is imminent as well.
Yes.
The audience were complaining, and my mouth was moving and your voice was coming out of it. So Petlove has now discreetly turned the camera onto a tree. And I've gone, oh, I knew it. Ladies,
looks like it's time for my close-up, Mr. Tamil. Maria, you're next. The show's going down.
Very, very good. I think we'll come back. I think we'll come back to Tara later.
Actually, Tara just arrived. Tara is here.
Hold on a second. I'll have my son.
And she can carry on.
Yes, and
ladies and gentlemen, you have
the live show going on here.
Yeah, yes, you have no idea what has to go on behind the scenes here, folks.
Maria is drinking from an invisible glass.
Yeah, 'cause I I wasn't gonna mess with the pose. I mean, at least I'm not in a giving birth position, which is.
It looks like you're.
Some of the sits are.
It looks like you're gesticulating. Like I said this and I thought that, and you're putting your hand up and down.
Anyway,
how often do I have to tell this to you?
Right,
guys?
exactly.
Yes.
Ready, Tara?
Okay, I'm seated, so I don't know what you're broadcasting because I still have a
I'm broadcasting you in your gray sweater, which will be a nice color in another 10 seconds.
10 seconds or so, yes. Okay, well, onwards.
Okay.
Raglanshire has put out its call for artists for its 2014 Art Walk.
Mm-hmm.
Deadline for that is, for applications for that is April 27th. And you will find the particulars at sites.google.com/site-/Raglanshire Artwalk/home. And that's an HTTPS, by the way. More than every year, over 100 artists and residents display 2 and 3D art across a number of exhibit spaces in the Raglanshire cluster. And there's some rules and stuff, but it's definitely a good one.
Those art shows are wonderful.
Yeah,
Everybody should go. Really.
And just to backtrack for a moment, on the SLCC SL11B, the place for more information on that is slcommunitycelebration.com. You'll find the details and links and everything else. And let's see, what was the other? I had one more item here. And the one more item was, I'll wait till later because it's discussion related and we can kick off on it if we need something to talk about. And I see Mel has returned, but in the meantime, I know Maria is ready to go.
Yeah, I don't think I'm what they call properly resed yet. So over to Maria. over to Maria with her headlines.
All right. Okay. Well. Okay. So this week, I put out the grid counts report on Monday, April 15th, or Tuesday, some day of the week that was the April 15th. And the region counts on OpenSim dropped by about 1,000 regions. Oh no, oh noes. What will happen to OpenSim? But it turns out that those 1,000 regions, actually more than 1,000 regions, all belong to ScienceSim, which is a big grid owned by Intel. And Intel's grid was a nice little research grid. A lot of researchers and scientists in schools came there to check out OpenSim and then moved on to their own grids. So by the end of it, ScienceSim was basically just empty land that was being used to test the Intel servers. So there was very little traffic, very little use of it. A lot of people either moved on to their own grids, moved on to the Moses grid, which is run by the Department of Defense. Other more hoppy happening grids. So Intel finally closed it down. And it was very sad to see it go because it, knocked a big hole in my numbers. If the grid had stayed open, then the actual number of regions on OpenSim would have increased a little bit. Then we also had Another World closed because its owner got sick, which is really sad when you have a grid. I mean, obviously the owner got sick, so that's sad too. But it shows the problems you're going to have when you have a grid that's owned and run by one person, especially if it's a commercial grid, because he's going to be in a position of having to refund people's money and try to get the content to them. And it's a closed commercial grid, so they don't really have a system in place for exporting regions. And in fact, the problem with a commercial grid is that they promise their content creators that nobody can export stuff, that this grid is kind of locked down. So when the grid closes, really everything in there needs to disappear because the content wasn't distributed under the idea that people could take it to another grid. obviously, except for the stuff that you create yourself. So this is something to watch out for if you're going to be investing a lot of time and money into a small grid that's run by one person. What is their contingency plan if something happens to that one person? It could be sickness, could be financial issues, there could be personal issues like a divorce. They could just get sick and tired of it. Who knows, what things happen, right? Your wife says, "You're gonna shut that thing down," or So you don't know what's gonna happen. In one case, the guy's mother made him get rid of the servers, and the grid was turned off. So leaving all the customers hanging. So that's a problem in OpenSim with smaller grids. It was a little bit similar to the situation with the early World Wide Web, when everybody and his brother put up a website hosting company or an ISP. And what happens if they go out of business? You lose your email, you lose your website, you lose your, all this stuff. So not so much of a problem with the big grids because they have a lot of personnel associated with them, but it is a problem with smaller grids. Mal already mentioned the VWBPE numbers. One thing I'd like to highlight is that these were record high numbers. So this is really encouraging, especially because the numbers had been slipping a little bit over the previous years. Now they were higher than they've been in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years when you combine the grids and the streaming and everything else. So very good sign. What else? What else was happening on a hypergrid this week? Xandromas, which is one of these small commercial grids, connected to the Kitely market. This is the first case of a commercial grid connecting to the Kitely market. The Kitely market allows anybody on any hypergrid-enabled grid to go shopping on this website and get stuff delivered right to their avatar, whatever grid they're on. So this is really cool. There's over 100 hypergrid-enabled grids, and now they all have this really big, busy hypergrid-enabled marketplace, which, by the way, doubled in sales when they turned on hypergrid delivery. So obviously, a lot of demand there for that. So the way Xandromas did it is they had their technology provider, ZetaMex, enable hypergrid delivery just for items from Kitely. So teleports are still turned off. You can't bring anything else in or out, but Kitely deliveries go through. And Kitely, and to make it even more secure, they have the Kitely deliveries go through just to one region, the Kitely delivery region. So if you're on the Xandromas grid, you would walk over to this region, you would pull up the website, buy your stuff, and it will show up in your inventory on the Kitely.
Can I ask a question on that, actually?
Sure.
This is because it's a closed grid, basically. And but Kitely actually facilitate delivery onto that grid.
Kitely didn't have to do anything. This was all done by the grid.
Okay, but I'm just thinking, say I was in, I had an avatar on that grid, and I purchased something off Kitely, which was delivered to me on that grid specifically. If I log out and log in somewhere else on the hypergrid, then if I went to Kitely Marketplace, would it already show me as having purchased that, and would they allow the purchase in other grids, if you see what I mean? I know I couldn't export it, but if
when I wanted 2 different avatars to get this, I bought it twice.
You did? Okay, right.
Because it delivers to your. It would be the same as if you bought a present for somebody else. Even if it's from a single account that these purchases are made, they're going out to different avatars. So unless you have a transfer permission or an export permission where you can transfer it from one avatar to another, you're going to have to buy it twice.
Okay.
Of course, on Xandromas, even if you have that export permission, the grid still won't let you export it because it's a closed grid.
Yeah.
Now, depending on what I mean, you can use a copybot kind of viewer to export it, but in that case, why bother buying it? If you're going to be copybotting it, go someplace that has tons of stuff and copybot it there. I'm not encouraging this.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of anything nefarious. I was just wondering, in principle, whether one purchase via Kitely was enough. Yeah.
But I'm just making the point that thieves are not going to purchase legitimate copies in order to then steal them, because they can just steal them to start with.
Yeah.
Okay. So this means that if you're a small grid without a lot of content on your grid and you want to stay a closed grid, maybe, for example, you're a school grid and you don't want your kids gallivanting around the hypergrid. Perfectly valid reason to be closed. Or say you're a role-playing grid with some really fancy, unique content and you want to stay closed. A great reason to stay closed. You can still have people get content off of a big marketplace that has a lot of stuff on it. So really, that's a positive, definitely a plus for those grids. And an interesting development for the Kitely market. Let's see, what else this week? A nice video, I posted a link to it, about some kids who built their own virtual world in OpenSim, then explored it with the Oculus Rift. Now,
we're going to be sharing that video on Metaverse Week in Review after this. So.
Oh, you will be?
Yep, indeed.
Oh, excellent. So I'll tell you a little bit about it. Mission V is the company behind it. So they've set up 11 schools in Ireland with OpenSim. And so in this particular video, the kids went on a trip to some local ruins. They came back. They spent 2 weeks recreating that build Inworld. And then they put on Oculus Rifts and actually walked around inside the world that they had built. And the expressions on their faces are priceless. Like, oh my God, this is so big. And they're looking up and they're looking around. And of course, they built this. So that's very cool, very worthwhile video to watch. So stick around for that. And in September, so this was the pilot project. In September, they're going to be opening this up to any school in Ireland that wants this. So very exciting. There's a lot of schools using OpenSim that we don't usually hear very much about because they don't really want the publicity, right? This is something that's a direct benefit to their students, but do they really want people to know that they're using something that's like Second Life? It's something that's difficult to explain to people. But when you have the Oculus Rift in there, now you have the Oculus Association instead of the Second Life Association. This is something for the Oculus Rift where you can walk around in it. This is something cool. This is something Facebook spent $2 billion on. This is something really, really valuable. This is the future. And I think that is a great story, and it really made the rounds. I have a Google alert set up for it. And this story has been picked up by so many publications because it's such a cool, feel-good story, and OpenSim is, front and center in the whole thing. So
it's I don't have links to this, but there was actually I've noticed a few things in the last week which are best use cases for Oculus Rift. There was one about I believe she died in the week, but an elderly woman who, before she died, was given an Oculus Rift to go out and experience the real world one last time, kind of thing. And it was all done with an Oculus, and she was over the moon.
Yep.
And they really are. This is actually what we want to see, not the story about Facebook and Oculus Rift, but like use cases immediately sort of coming up that, are really left of center, because they're promoting the use of the device, and, the name Second Life isn't anywhere, for better or worse.
On a little side note there, to expand on that, I'm working on an article this week for Network World, this coming week for Network World, about enterprise uses of virtual reality. And so I've been talking to a few people about how virtual reality is currently being used. And basically, for the past 10 years or so, large companies have been spending about $30,000 a pop on these virtual reality headsets that they've been using for early prototyping, 3D walkthroughs, simulations, and training. Now, at $30,000 a pop, plus, often in the six figures for the associated software and development, they're not going to have exactly a lot of these setups. They might have like a few. Some of them also use the cave environments where the 3D images are projected on walls around you. So you walk into this cube and you're in a 3D space. So, for example, they might use a 3D space to test out store layouts, because no matter how much it costs to set it up, it's still cheaper than building a new store. So what they would do is they would have focus groups go inside one of these environments, and they would see where people are looking, how they're navigating the shelves, that kind of thing. With the Oculus Rift, with the price point being $300 instead of $30,000, that's a factor of 100 difference. These kind of applications of the Oculus Rift in the enterprise are going to be able to expand dramatically. Instead of having one employee on your design team with this device, you can have all of them with this device. Instead of having one location where you can have focus groups, you can have focus groups in many different locations, many different groups, by shipping these devices around to them. And then people can do virtual walkthroughs of stores and airplanes and ships and whatever it is you're building, architecture, designs. So those kinds of applications, the internal corporate applications of virtual reality, are just going to explode when the Oculus Rift hits the market, because they're already doing it and they're spending huge amounts of money on it. There's a lot of value to it, and we're going to see that value now multiply dramatically. So that's a very exciting thing. Yeah. So, okay, what else? Kitely announced that they're halfway to the Hypergrid. They've only got a few little things to finish up, specifically the content issue, so that when people teleport out of Kitely and they're wearing something that's not supposed to leave Kitely, they will get a little pop-up saying, your hair is not allowed to travel to other grids. Please take it off, or we'll take it off for you. Something like that, right? So
I can imagine a few funny things happening there, but we won't go into that.
Exactly. So they're working on that, because this is something that they're super paranoid about the content issue, because that's the whole shtick, So let's see what else. I would think, if you have articles tagged export, I think something very useful on OpenSim would be a second category in your inventory that only displays exportable items. So if you were about to travel somewhere, you could actually briefly go to that category to check that what you were wearing was exportable. That would be extremely useful. You should make a note of that and email the viewer developers.
Yep. Try to remember.
And speaking of Kitely, I finally went through their system to try to figure out what the deal is, difference between their $20 and $15 regions. For $20 you get 5 regions. For $15 you get 1 region. Do you guys care about the difference there? Do you want me to explain what the secret is? Yes? No?
I want to know. Tell me.
You want to know? Okay.
Yeah. Just me, or is Skype breaking up?
So
just you.
So for $20 a month, you get 5 regions. Those 5 regions can each hold up to 100,000 prims and up to 100 avatars. And they've tested this. They're actually holding this.
For $50.
For $15.
Mm-hmm.
15 for $15.
Okay.
1.5 for $50. You get 1 region. You get 15,000 prims, not 100,000, but 15, 1-5, and you only get 10 avatars on a region. I mean, what a lousy deal, right?
Yeah.
So I called up Kitely to figure out, what the difference is. And the difference is that with the $20 plan and those 5 free regions, plus it gets sweeter. With a $20 plan, you can add any additional regions you want for $1 a month each. That's $1 a month for 100,000 prims.
Oh my
and
gosh.
100 avatars. I know, insane, right? As many as you want.
Yeah.
I mean, for somebody who's used to paying $300 a month with a $1,000 setup fee, we're talking $1 a month, no setup fee, 100,000 prims. So I'm like, okay, what's the story here? Because the story is the metered, fixed, flat rate mess that they've got, which I've never been able to figure out. Well, now I finally have it figured out. When you have your $1 regions or your free regions that are part of your $20 plan, then if people want to visit those regions who are not signed up for that $20 premium plan, like newcomers to the grid or people teleporting in from other grids, if you allow those people to visit, then you have to pay extra money for them to be on your region. Specifically, you're paying 20 cents per user per hour, which is not a huge amount of money, but it can add up if you have a lot of regions and a lot of visitors. Now, you're not going to get a bill at the end of the month for like $1,000 like you do with cell phone roaming charges, because there's systems in place to, you're not going to spend more money than you've got. It just turns off access to a region if you don't have the money to pay for it. But so what happens is that the premium account holders can get access to your regions, but everybody else you have to pay extra for them if you want to have that access. So that's the downside to it. So so what Elon Tochner told me was that what happens is, after people are around Kitely for a while, they realize what a great deal this $20 a month thing is, and they sign up for it. And then they can visit all the other regions that their friends have that are on the same deal, and this helps create a community. If some of those regions start getting a lot of traffic, then they will switch over those individual regions to the $15 plan if they want the public to come visit. So because you can switch a region over at any time. So if you're going to have a lot of people showing up for an hour, you can switch plans and then switch back again. It's insane. Or turn off access and turn off again.
Well, very well for event people. People putting on events. Just change.
So it's an insane system. So anyway, so about 2/3 of the people who pay money to Kitely sign up for this $20 premium membership plan, which means 5 free regions plus an unlimited number of $1 regions, but they have to pay extra for the regular public to visit. So if they don't get a lot of public visits, 20 cents per user per hour is not much. And Kitely also has a system in place, so if a user is inactive, it automatically kicks them off your region. So you're not wasting money because somebody forgot their avatar on your land. Yeah. So that's pretty useful. So that's the way people do it. They set up these $20 plans, and if one of the regions turns out is very popular and they want to keep it open to the public, then they switch it over to the $15 flat rate plan, so they don't have to worry about how much traffic it gets. So so now I know what the difference is, and now you guys know.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, next I'm going to explain how to get the Kitely free region, because everybody who shows up can get a free 100,000 prim region for themselves.
Whoa.
So that's what my story this month is going to be, with the whole breakdown of here's where you click it, here's where you click that, because it's kind of tricky, it's kind of buried in there. But but everybody can do it. All you need is a Facebook account, Twitter account, or an email address. And Totschner said that if somebody goes in, creates 1,000 email addresses and 1,000 accounts and gives themselves 1,000 regions, he doesn't care. He says go for it. So but there's a catch to that too. So and the catch is that you only get to use that region for 6 hours. After that, you're gonna have to, fork over the 20 cents an hour or upgrade or upgrade to one of the paid plans. But if your 6 hours are up, you can still allow all the premium users of Kitely to visit your region. So, for example, you can put up a museum on this region and just leave it up. And all of Kitely's premium users can continue to visit it, continue to see it, and it doesn't cost you a penny. It can stay up there forever. Yeah.
So that's perfect.
Or you can have a store there, and people show up and shop and buy stuff and give you money. So you have a region that you're not paying anything for at all that's earning money for you just by sitting there.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And I suppose it promotes that, promotes activity on the grid as well. So
yeah, exactly. It's cheaper for them to spend $1 on people to give them a region than it is to buy advertising and stuff like that. So so that's a nice deal. And then they're going to be Hypergrid enabled soon as well. So it'll be interesting to see what that does to the OpenSim land market.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the mechanics of that's going to be very interesting because of the monetary structure inside Kitely. If you can hypergrid in, for example, and then hypergrid over to a sim, and when you hypergrid over to that sim, it's costing the sim owner money.
Only if the sim owner agrees.
Right. Yeah.
Because every region has that very detailed access panel where you can decide, who has access to your region, when and where. You can even have members of this Facebook group can access my region. It's like that crazy, yeah. So if you don't want Hypergrid visitors in your region racking up your usage hours, you can keep them out.
Yeah.
So it's very nice.
I think that's going to. I mean, I particularly haven't really been into Kitely. I think I registered at some point and had a look around and stuff. But I mean, I'm in OS Grid and I hypergrid around. But if I know I can hypergrid into Kitely, that would be my preferred way of exploring it.
Right.
See what happens. So that'd be great.
Exactly. Because who wants to create yet another avatar?
Yes, exactly. Now, actually, while I think of it, one post that you had in the week, Maria, that you haven't mentioned, I think it started off with, I've suddenly realised that I've been blogging all these years and I've never told you what OpenSim is. You actually did a rather nice introductory post this week for people who really are still confused about OpenSim and everything. You explained it.
Well, I was doing this story about the kids, and I thought, because it's an Oculus story, I might get people clicking on it from outside of our closed community. So, and I'm talking about OpenSim there, and I want to be able to link to my post that says, what is OpenSim, and I didn't have one. I think I'll have to write one, and this is handy because now when people Google what is OpenSim,
they get your blog.
well, let's see if they do or not. My story is on it's on the first page. Yeah, what is OpenSim?
Very good, clever there. Meta tags and things.
I don't have any meta tags.
Oh.
I also noticed that if you Google
meta tags went the way of the buffalo some years ago, Mel.
Oh, thank God.
I
also noticed that if you Google active grids, my active OpenSim grids list is the first thing that comes up too. So I'm very happy about that.
Great.
Yep.
Okay, we'll come back to you in a while, actually, if you've got anything else. I have one more post up, actually, that sort of crosses the grid between, crosses the categories between Inworld and Outworld, really.
You think I was done? Oh,
no. I've typed it in for us in the background here. Basically, it's a site called hplusmagazine.com, or one word, H the letter plus magazine.com, and it's an invited essay called "The Future of Work: Musical Performance in Virtual Reality." And it's written by somebody called Linda Rogers, who I'm pretty sure, especially given the text that follows, is involved with Music Island in Second Life. She goes on about 5 years of virtual concerts in the park. But it's quite interesting that it's coming from the direction of work. The possibilities for musicians and musical performance in virtual reality. So if you want to check that article out, do it at hplusmagazine.com.
I see it. Yeah. Cool.
Now,
now,
okay.
I've got a few more things. Do you want me to finish them up, or do you want to?
I'm just thinking. Let's move. Let's come back to you with the other things in a minute, because I think I'm right in saying that Saffia has now joined us. Are you here, Saffia?
I am indeed. Hello, Mark.
Hello, and welcome to the show. Tara did mention briefly in her intro about the birthday coming up and whatever, but I knew you were coming, so we thought we'd hold up on that because we have Fantasy Fair coming up. We have the 11th community birthday party. And everything else. So I know also you're pressed for time. So I thought if I move to you now, you can get everything in.
Well, let's kick off with Fantasy Fair. It's going to be 11 Sims this year. And it's going to range from the Seelie and Unseelie Court, which will be created by Alicia Ember, to swamps created by Marcus Inkpen and Shani Azali, and a mysterious wood, and a steampunk region which is created by Beck Janus. There's all sorts of wonderful things to see. Obviously, it's also going to be packed with
avatars.
With avatars and stores, I was going to say, and things to do. There'll be music, there'll be all sorts of entertainment going on. There'll be the jail and bail. This year, though, we're doing something else. We're doing something extra, a couple of things extra, which will be launching over the next couple of days. One of which is to give people access, machinima makers who would be interested in filming. We're going to offer to let them access The Sims early if they have ideas of what they would like to film, rather than just kind of going in and filming. What we're going to do is give people the details of The Sims and say, now, can you tell a story using this? And if you can, we will give 5 machinima makers access.
Yeah, that's a good idea. It's like a mini machinima contest. You've got to qualify.
It's a kind of mini machinima contest, and the prize is that you get to access The Sims early to use them. The second thing, this year we want the Fantasy Fair experience to be about stories and telling stories. Last year, those Sims were fantastic, and they were all kind of full of mysterious stories that could be told. The Hunt, obviously, was one of those stories. But there were also a lot of other stories that people could tell for themselves if they wanted. Inara Pay did that on her blog, and we also ran a short story competition. We're going to be running the short story competition again, so people can tell stories about these Sims. We're going to give them lots of more notice this time, so they can tell stories about the Sims, and there will be a prize for the person who tells the best story. We're also having a photo contest. Now, the idea of the photo contest, this is really exciting. The 11 best pictures of the Sims, so one of each Sim, will go into a calendar which will be sold in the real world.
Well, that's cool.
Now, you know how quite often people say, oh, I wish I could take this home, or I wish I could show it to people outside Second Life. Well, the idea is we're going to take the best photos, the 11 best photos, and make a calendar. And the calendar will be something you can buy in the real world. You can have it on your desk. You can pin it to your wall. You can give it as a Christmas present to friends. Obviously, the funds from that will all go to Relay for Life, but it's a way of taking Fantasy Fair to your real life home, which I think is pretty cool.
You said 11 pictures. You mean 12, surely?
There's going to be a special prize for the 12th. The 12th month will be the photo that's chosen as the best overall photo, and it will both be the 12th month and it will be the cover of the calendar. That's the prize, which I think is a pretty cool prize, actually.
Yeah, and actually it's a pretty cool thing to do as well. Because you know, those picture calendars are very popular. You know, I often end up with one or two a year, and you stick them on the wall, and if you remember, you change them to February when January's over. But you know, it's like having a poster up too. And you know, if your visitors come around and say, "Oh, that's a nice painting," you say, "Well, it's not a painting; it's a photograph, and it's taken in a virtual world." And you've got a starting point to explain everything to them. You know.
Yeah. So we think that's going to be really cool. There are other things going on. We're actually going to make and film a ballet in the Fantasy Fair Sims. That's going to be a little machinima.
With an existing ballet troupe or a completely new project?
It's a kind of scratch ballet troupe. It's experienced dancers in Second Life are setting it up. Led by Amethyst Dovegal, who was actually one of the leading players in Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, right.
And she's organising it, and it'll be filmed, and it'll be absolutely beautiful, I think. And that's going to be a kind of teaser for the fair, we hope. The other thing that is going to, I think, will be very cool indeed, and gives people a chance to get involved in something different. Now, Fantasy Fair, of course, a lot of the people who go to Fantasy Fair are role players. And so this year we've invited 3 separate role play groups to come and join us. And Neo Victoria are doing a steampunk story, and there's a nice little trailer for that on the web. I'll give you the address, Mal, so you can put it up next week.
Right, okay. I think actually I've got a video of I forget whether it's in this week's show or whether it was last week from Neo Victoria.
It's only just gone out. Is it Professor Timmins?
Oh yeah, the preview. Yes, that's into today's machinima thing.
Fantastic.
There's a little trailer for it. Yeah.
Because what they're doing, it's really exciting. They're starting their role play in Neo Victoria. Then it will cross over to Fantasy Fair, and they'll be going to the steampunk sim Asperatus that's created by Beck Janus. And the adventure will continue there. People can get involved in the adventure. People can join in and have fun.
Great. And presumably it will continue elsewhere afterwards.
And then it will continue elsewhere afterwards. And that's the first one. The second one is going to involve a group of urchins. It was kind of inspired by the idea of Neverland and the Lost Boys, because, you know, the idea of children's fantasy is really strong and maybe doesn't get the play that some of the other fantasy environments do. But, that's how people who love fantasy came to it initially, I think. They come to it as children through amazing, amazing stories like Peter Pan. And so we invited Jimmy Branner and Myrtle Igley of New Babbage to set this one up. And they have set it up. Loki Elliott and the Escapades kids have joined in. So they have a really beautiful story about guardians, 4 guardians of 4 elements, the stones that represent 4 elements, who are in danger, and their only defenders are the kids, the rickety weasels. They are going to be all over the fair. You may need to watch your wallet, but they're actually pursuing the cause of good. So there's a whole storyline there, and people can help them or hinder them if they decide they would rather be on the side of the dark shadows who oppose them. But it's a chance to get involved. You don't have to get involved in these things that are going on, but it's a chance. It's a chance to interact with a new element at the fair and find out if you like that kind of thing, if you haven't tried it before, and find out about 3 really strong communities. The third group is the Tradewind Pirates, who were on Designing Worlds a few weeks ago.
Yes, I was thinking it, yeah.
And they're going to have a tavern, and they have been kind of shipwrecked in the Fairlands. So they're going to be looking for ways to get some cash to repair their ship and get off. Obviously, the cash they raise will go to Relay. But that's going to be their story.
I think we can assume it's going to be something of a lag fest. I always found it gets very, very popular event and it's very hard to find a time when you don't suffer lag. And with these 3 role-play things going on as well, it could be a challenge. But it sounds like a very exciting challenge.
I think it's going to be fun. I think we've just got to accept that Fantasy Fair is going to be laggy, whatever happens. They're doing some things to help lag this year. They've looked at lag problems in the building. They've also looked at things like they're not opening at a weekend. They're actually opening deliberately midweek to kind of, stop the weekend crowd going woof.
Yes.
And piling in right at the start of the fair. Obviously, the weekend crowd will go woof, but hopefully some of the people will have,
actually, interesting challenge, actually. As far as the building is concerned, there's a lot of use of mesh for, building the structures there, because that obviously helps with lag too, doesn't it? And I just think fantasy probably lends itself to that quite a lot.
I think so, yes. I haven't seen the builds yet. I've seen bits of some of the builds. No, I can't give spoilers. I'm sorry, I can't. I can just tell you the bits I've seen are amazing. And I'm sure mesh is being used thoroughly and appropriately. But just amazing. Wait till you see it. It will really blow your socks off.
Blow your mind, as we used to say. Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm sitting here watching. I suddenly realised that sitting between you and Tara, we've got Petlove. I never actually got a chance to say hi, Petlove, because we didn't do the guest intros properly. But hi, Pet.
Hello. Hi. It's okay.
I see you're multitasking, even in World, busy on that laptop of yours.
Yes, indeed.
Do feel free to interject.
Thank you. If you noticed, I have.
Yes. Yeah.
Never a problem.
I thought we'll just point out who the mysterious voice is.
No problem.
Everybody knows, of course. But
that is thanks, Mel.
Back to Saffia, though, of course. Now, the other thing got coming up is SL11B.
That's right. Yes, that launched yesterday. We've been kind of sitting on that a bit for a little while, knowing that it was coming, getting all excited about getting land together so that it could actually happen. And now it's going to happen, and you'll be able to follow it on at the moment. You'll be able to follow it on the website, on Facebook, and on Twitter, and on Flickr as well. We have a Flickr stream, and it's slcommunitycelebration.com, all one word. That's the blog, and you can find the Facebook from there. They're both listed on the front page, and we'll get the Flickr stream up there soon, I'm sure.
No.
The theme this year is an interesting one. It's the empires of the future are the empires of the mind. It's a quote from Winston Churchill. And the idea behind it is that we are dealing with empires of the mind in Second Life, and increasingly as we go into the future, this is where empires are built in virtual reality in one way or another. And so we really want to encourage people to look forward and think where all this is going. Last year the theme was looking forward, looking back, and we mostly looked back because it was 10 years and that seemed a really appropriate thing to do. But this year we really want to get people looking into the future. I think it's going to be really exciting. It's going to be the usual things. It's going to be stages, it's going to be auditorium with talks, it's going to be builds, obviously, fantastic builds, fantastic creations. Although this year we're really going to be quite stringent about no commercial builds.
It's funny, I was thinking earlier that sometimes guests on this show, Will Burns and Crap Mariner, was so critical of my build last year that they volunteered to do it this year. So a little reminder, if they are watching this show, a little reminder, Crap and Will, you will be contacted shortly.
They were a little grouchy about that, weren't they?
Yes, I know. Yes.
Oh well.
Less for me to do. Let's face it.
Yeah. Hey.
So that there are there are obviously going to be submission dates for people who want to take a patch and stuff like that. Of all the dates,
absolutely. I can tell you that the performers, the volunteers, and the auditorium applications are already open.
Right.
The exhibitor applications will open on April the 27th.
Right.
And the closing date is May the 26th. So you've got a full month to apply, and the volunteer applications will stay open beyond that. Because we need to timetable. Well, we need to make sure that people get spaces for the exhibitors, and in terms of performers in the auditorium, we need to schedule people. So we have to have a cut-off date.
But volunteers will be welcome at any time.
Volunteers will be welcome at any time. Turn up and join in. There will be training for volunteers, and it's a wide range of volunteers to act as greeters, to meet people, to volunteers for security, volunteers on the stages to act as stage managers. There's a lot of really brilliant people out there, and we're really encouraging them to come and join in and help with this help with the birthday. It's a fantastic event. Everyone who works on it every year has such fun. I think I can safely say, and You know, when we just opened the SLB group and said hello, it was like hi, you're back.
There's one question I have to ask actually, and that is that in recent years, what is it, 3 years now, the community celebration has been a big success, and many people actually think it runs a lot more smoothly than the version that Linden Labs used to be sort of semi in charge of, I think. It is a totally independent celebration put on by the community, but are there any known plans of Linden involvement or something running in parallel that they might be doing?
I don't think they'll be doing anything in parallel. I don't know. I mean, I think we will see if anyone wants to speak. It would be awfully nice to get a keynote from Ebbe, and he's shown himself willing to communicate with the community.
Oh, indeed, yeah.
And I think it would be lovely if he came and visited. I remember when M. Linden was very new, he came and visited. I think it was SL5B.
God,
and everyone loved that. Yeah, that was
somewhere. I have a picture of, I believe it was M. Linden, or was it
Rodvik the robot,
or was it Rodvik who appeared as a small plane?
Yeah, that was Rodvik.
That was Rodvik in his first year, yeah, and that was his only appearance.
Yeah, exactly. Was quite
People like it when our leaders touch base with us. I mean, it really means a lot.
I can remember. I can remember when he arrived. I got a Twitter from him just beforehand saying, "Is it okay to film?" But you couldn't find this darn plane flying around. You know, it kind of, you know, it lost the impact of the humanoid avatar standing up in front of everybody. You know, the camera was roaming around. Where's that damn plane gone? You know?
and he wasn't talking.
Yeah, he was flying all over the place. Yeah, so it was. Yes, that was a challenge. But yes, indeed.
He was probably just doing what he felt like doing. You know, he felt, well, it's Second Life. I can do what I want. You know, you know, and in that context, it made a certain amount of sense. You know.
Yeah.
But it is nice when they touch base. You know, when our leaders, our father figures and our mommy figures touch base. You know.
Yeah, I mean, Ebbe has this nice mesh avatar without moving lips at the moment. It's really looking quite dishy, but as Saffia will attest, our first experience of Ebbe was also a robot.
But certainly a more open robot. Yeah.
Yeah, very much. But I think he's settling in now. So he looks.
I think he's.
Looks quite suave.
I think he's doing an excellent job, actually.
Of course.
With a very, very difficult brief, I think he's doing well. He's doing well.
I think he's got a very clear idea of where he is, you know, which is it certainly helps.
It's a huge plus, yes.
It's like a new approach almost. It's been so long.
Well, we need change. That's what makes it all get better. And
now we need to get back to the hippie days.
Well, that was actually that's so long. That would be a change in itself.
That's what I'm saying.
That will be a revolution. In other words, in the true sense of the word, a circular back to the start thing.
Right.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Anything else happening? I know you're pressed for time, Saffia, so I'm just focusing on it for a minute.
I'm really pressed for time, I'm afraid. I've got a very special date.
Yes, indeed.
So I have to run away, I'm afraid. That's pretty much keeping me busy. That and carrying on my new mad video skills, which carrying on with the Doctor Who videos and producing the new Gallifrey public record.
Maybe you'd like to type into the channel chat, actually, the address for that if you want it public.
Connected to the channel chat, and I.
Oh, okay.
But new Gallifrey public record. And I'm really going to have to disappear, I'm afraid.
I know that's been a bit under the radar, so if anybody wants to check that out and is into Doctor Who, it's really quite fascinating, sort of continuing series, so to speak. So.
It's a bit of a specialised interest, I think. But
But
it's,
there's lots of Doctor Who fans out there. Oh, I can't hum it. Never
Well, it
mind.
was nice seeing you, Saf.
Yeah.
it's nice seeing you, Pat, and the bunny.
Mm.
Oh, you
Thank
will
you.
like that. You will like the last Doctor Who video. Vic
Okay.
Mornington's on it,
Mhm.
and he is totally upstaged by his rabbit. He's
Wonderful.
talking about New Gallifrey politics very seriously, and sadly, he is also wearing a rabbit on his shoulder who totally upstages him.
I seem to recall seeing a rabbit or two that are shoulder pets that Inworld that have some very amusing behavior.
He is one of the best.
Do watch the video because
some of them singing.
Vic's on the second half, and he just the rabbit upstages him, including doing double takes at some of the things Vic says.
I love them. Those pets that actually they don't stay on your shoulder either. They crawl all over
They
you.
jump all
and,
over.
Exactly. They become their own star.
I have a
attraction.
big one that drags you around by your ankle and holds you in a couple of other positions. It's hilarious. It's
You
awesome.
told me.
I'll show you after the show.
Yeah, we'll have to do a bit.
Or I'll do it on the show if you want me to.
We'll do a quick outtake and strip it into next week's
If you'd
show.
like, okay.
as the intro to the show, maybe that'd be fun.
Oh God, maybe not.
Somebody is taking Pet for a walk.
Right.
It's like a big dog.
It's the pet walking the pet.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, Saffia, thanks awfully for being here. I'll let you slip off quietly and
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
move the camera around so we don't see your disappearing act. And see you again. See you again soon.
Bye-bye. See you again soon.
Take
Bye.
care.
See you,
Bye.
Saffia. And at least Saffia's departure can be as intentional as distinct
As opposed to.
some earlier misfires.
Yes, I did say at the top of the show we are prone to gremlins today. I mean, not only don't we have Inworld voice working, but we are going in and out like a hiccup. Phantom of the show, as it were. And well, who knows? Even Skype has been cackling on me, but I can't blame that on the Lindens, unfortunately. So let's pop back to Maria, because I know you still had a few things, didn't you, in your announcements?
Well, let's see. Last week I announced on the show the Freeland and Open Sim report that's been downloaded over 400 times. So
Nice.
we've got people are out there looking for Freeland and Open Sim. Okay, I want to tell you guys about remember Zandramas, the grid that enabled Kitely deliveries?
Yeah.
They also lifted the prim limits on its regions. Now, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but in Second Life you got the 15,000 prim limit. In Open Sim, the prim limit isn't really hard coded. I've mentioned earlier that Kitely has the 100,000 prims. We've had testers putting 1 million prims on a region.
Whoa.
Now, it takes a big well, people with big computers, running Open Sim, because it takes and the prims, they're usually like square blocks, they just pile them up. So Zandramas has lifted the limits, so as many prims as you can fit there, more power to you. Now they're not changing the servers, so after a certain number of prims, things are going to slow down. You might want to lower your camera settings and stuff like that, but as long as it works, you don't have to watch out for the prims. You just have to watch out for your region slowing down. So so that's something else that they did, which was interesting. Let's see, bunch of Easter celebrations all over the place, this week, which was nice. And there is something called the I wrote this down. Metaverse Cultural Series.
Oh yes, that's Avacon. Yeah.
Yeah, avacon.org if you want to look them up. And today is the last day for proposals. So if you want to get a proposal into the series, and if you're accepted, you get $100 stipend to help offset your costs. hurry up. It's the end of day today, midnight today. So you've got a few hours left to get your proposal to them and get it done.
These are mostly, well, not like this show, but these are basically chat panels and things, mostly, aren't they?
It's a series of events. It's not like one thing. It's
they had a whole load last year, which were great, but very few of them were films. So as usual, I'm thinking, wonder if anybody will film them.
Maybe that could be your proposal, to film these things.
Yes. Actually, to be honest, if I did actually do any of my own filming, I probably would be more successful in OpenSim than Second Life, from what I can tell from my performance on OpenSim, that is. But yes, okay, yes. So that should be a great series, a kind of prelude as well to the Avacon conference coming up in November, which I mentioned earlier as well.
Yep. And the OpenSim conference, which is, I am so looking forward to. We're getting close to finalizing our own language and calls for proposals and all that stuff. Probably is going to be going out this week, maybe the week after that. So keep an eye out for that. And the only other thing I had was I did an article earlier today about how the virtual is not going to replace the real, except in 3 special cases. And because I was tired of seeing all these articles about how everything's going to change because of virtual reality. We're not going to go to the movies. We're going to watch things in Oculus Rift. Or the other extreme that, it's never going to replace reality because of all the lag and other problems. So I broke it down into where it is going to replace reality and where it isn't. So with some calculations that you can do for any particular thing. Is this going to be replaced by virtual reality or isn't it? And you guys want to hear the 3 things?
Yeah. That's this could be a whole discussion in its own right, I think, actually. Yeah.
So here are my rules for this. So first of all, is the thing that you're considering, is it something that where was that you're proud to own, right? So if this is a stack of newspapers, probably not. You're just going to throw them away. If it's an old poster hanging on the wall, probably not. There's a lot of things or telephone books, you don't really feel any proud of ownership of it, right? You're not going to replace it by a digital copy. If you own a Mona Lisa or an original work of art or something like that, you're proud of it. You're proud to own it, or first edition book, an original print of something. You are proud of that stuff. You are going to keep it. You want to keep a physical copy of it. You want to keep the original of it. So those are things that are not likely to be replaced by a virtual mass-produced copy. Then it could be an experience as well. So, for example, if you climb Mount Everest, you are proud of the fact that you have done this. You will tell that to everybody you meet in every single conversation you ever have for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I tell everybody that I used to be a war correspondent. I try to sneak it into a conversation every opportunity I get. My kids are sick and tired of hearing about it. So it's something that you're proud to have done. The fact that you saw Mount Everest on Google Earth is not something you're going to be particularly proud of and brag about.
No.
Now, even though it's safer to see it in Google Earth, and it's cheaper to see it in Google Earth, and it's more convenient to see it in Google Earth, you don't exactly have any pride of ownership of that experience when it happens.
I think you would still go for something like Google Earth because not as an alternative, but as a taster for the real experience.
Exactly.
So, they are linked together, but you would use the virtual reality in a different way from the way you approach it organically. Yeah.
Exactly. And this was actually the first point I made in the article, that the virtual does not devalue the real. If you have copies of the Mona Lisa in every dorm room in the country, that does not reduce the value of the original Mona Lisa. If anything, increases the value of the original, because it creates mass awareness of the Mona Lisa, and it's something that everybody knows about. It recognizes it. It increases the value of it. So a great example of this is Scrabble. They were slow to put out an app, because you don't want to devalue the original game. So Words with Friends came out, and now Words with Friends has a physical board game edition.
Yeah. And there's very much another. You've hit home on the point here. It'd be interesting to bring Tara in this instead. But in fact, it was just the other day I was musing about this. I'm surrounded here by books, not so much textbooks and stuff, and I'm quite happy the newspaper's on the iPad so that it doesn't get in the way. But I've got art books and masses of comic books and things like that, and I was suddenly looking at them and thinking, what a change it is to bring that out now and again, not just a tactile experience of the book, but because images that are printed are so much different from images that are recreated with light. And all our projection systems, computer screens and everything else like that is basically red, green and blue. It's projected light at us. It's sort of, it's not stained glass window because that has to be translucent, but that's the kind of halfway point. But where you've got these inks, pigments that actually mask the color of a page to create the effect of the image you see, it has a whole totally different thing. And at one point I couldn't get, I wanted every image library available online or on a CD because I thought they looked wonderful. So much better sometimes, the quality of light when it was projected in my face. But now I'm looking at some of the things I've never looked at for donkey's years, and I suddenly think, well, actually, there's a beauty about that can't be replicated digitally. It may even be lower resolution, but there is something about the tactile and the illusory quality we get of things that are on paper and stuff that is just so totally different. So I think that's going, the elements like that, as you say, are always going to exist because they're so much different from anything we can do on screen, let alone virtually.
Maria, you had a third thing.
Well, I had three things. Yes. So
sorry.
So the first one was pride of ownership. The second was distinguishing significant features. Does it have them or not between the virtual and the real? And so if you take a phone book, for example, it doesn't really have any significant advantages. It's worse than the digital edition. It's really not going to survive.
Yeah.
And the last one was commodification. That it's a mass-produced object. It's not unique. So the Mona Lisa is unique. There's one of it, or signed collector's prints where there's only certain number of them. They're a limited amount. They're a scarce resource. They're valuable because they're scarce. The trip to Everest is valuable because it's scarce. Not too many people can do it. Something like the poster prints of the Mona Lisa, those are not scarce. If you replace those with a digital image, people aren't even going to notice that it's been replaced. But the original is scarce, and the thing is that the virtual could sometimes be very, very close to the real. But no matter how close it is, if those three conditions are met, it's not going to replace it. Going back to the Mona Lisa as an example, you can pay $5 and get a poster of it, but you can pay $30 and get a copy of it printed on canvas. And I put a link to it in the story, where it's printed on canvas so that only an expert can tell the difference. So if you hang this $30 canvas print behind glass in a fancy frame, nobody knows but you know.
Yeah.
You know? Is that so? So you could say, well, why pay $100 million for the original when you can pay $30 for a print? Well, the original, it has that value. It has a story behind it. It has a history, and it has a uniqueness that the print doesn't have. And I think that this part of it, I mean, that's how the diamond industry survives. I mean, diamonds aren't actually scarce. They create artificial scarcity.
It's an artificial scarcity, yeah.
Yeah, and of course the man-made diamonds are completely indistinguishable from the real thing. They have to put like laser-etched numbers on the natural diamonds so you can tell them apart. Because no matter how good an expert you are, you can't tell them apart. People are still paying humongous prices for diamonds. Even no logical reason to it, but it conveys pride of ownership. One of the ways to have pride of ownership is to put a high price tag on something. Even if the thing is absolutely the same, you put a heavy price tag to something, and now you're proud to own it because it's rare. Not everybody can afford it because it's expensive. It's valuable.
It becomes a status symbol, even if it's not.
It becomes a status symbol as well.
Yeah.
But like for example, when I'm on a show and I'm dressing up, I don't want to wear a freebie outfit that everyone else has. I want to have something special that's unique, that's in limited circulation, that's expensive, that makes me feel different wearing it.
That's why I never change my clothes. I've never seen anybody else in this costume. So there you go.
Well, that's one of the lamer excuses I've ever heard for never.
I saw a lot of people wearing that costume about 80 years ago. No, just kidding.
There's
now.
a reason nobody wears that costume anymore.
Nah, it's a nice costume. It is. It's a good costume.
I love the color, the style, and I'm really genuine there. I forget where I found it. It did cost me, but I've never seen anybody else in it. I'm sure other people got it, and millions of residents in Second Life, but I haven't encountered one. So it feels like a part of me, the look, just like the Batman or something. You got mistaken because of their costume. And anyways, that's better than the old purple suit was.
One of the links I included in the story was to one of my favorite TV shows. My number one favorite TV show is Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh yeah.
But my number two favorite TV show is Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
I don't know.
I missed that one.
It's about a teenage witch named Sabrina. That tells you everything you need to know about this show.
Yeah.
So Sabrina's witch, Aunt Vespa, played by Raquel Welch, lives in this perfect world called the Pleasure Dome. She could have everything she wants anytime she wants it. And she wants Sabrina to come live with her instead of living in our mortal realm where you have to work for everything and do your homework. So Sabrina visits her in this virtual pleasure palace where there's parties all the time and you just wave your hand and everything appears you could possibly want. And it turns out that Aunt Vespa is desperately lonely. And she desperately, because all that stuff is just useless when there's nobody to share it with. And the last scene of the movie, she opens up a door to this closet, which is full of people. And those people are saying, "You're beautiful, you're gorgeous, you're wonderful, you're fabulous." And Aunt Vespa says, "So empty, but it works." It's so the point I was making here is the point of intent. So you can have any number of virtual people telling you how wonderful you are, but it doesn't replace one real person making sarcastic remarks in your general direction.
Exactly.
You could walk into a McDonald's and have people say, "Have a nice day," and it's better than a slap in the face.
This isn't it. This is the kind.
Yeah, go on.
Well, just saying, this is the kind of issue that's been explored in science fiction a bit, but I think it might be Michael Moorcock's Dances at the End of Time and things, where you have the notion of immortality and infinite possibility that just becomes boring because there is no challenge there. The infinite possibilities are available, and you just get bored. And
I think a better example of it would be the Diamond Age, where I believe, if I remember it right, they make these books that are custom designed educational things like iPads to teach people. And one of them is actually voiced by a real person, not by a robot. And the girl who gets the book that's voiced by a real person does so much better because it's like a real person behind this book.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's actually going to play out in real life, but that idea that you can have bots all around you pretending to dance with you and make nice to you, but when you know it's not real, even if it's almost indistinguishable. I mean, the smile on the face of the McDonald's employee is almost indistinguishable from that of your actual friend who's happy to see you.
Yeah.
Because they're trained in there. But at least some of them are trained. You know, they're teenagers, so you know you never know what you're gonna get. But you know it's not the real thing, and when you know it's not the real thing, when the intent isn't there, when there's no actual person there who's happy to see you, I think that's like a major reason why that there's going to be limits to what you could actually do with virtual reality, because we pick up on that. We understand if we have, like, say you go to a virtual restaurant that has real waiters and fake waiters, they may act the same way, but because you know that the waiters are real, you're going to pay more for the restaurant with the real waiters. Is what I'm saying.
There's an idea here that's kind of burbling up from that, and that is, if you consider people's participation in virtual worlds, and I wonder if some of the distinction between people who stick, who say come into Second Life and stick around, versus people who come in and don't stick around, setting aside the learning curve stuff. If some of that isn't a difference between those who come in and realize that these avatars they're interacting with are real people.
They're scared.
And, no, seriously, and whose interactions with those avatars are then become influenced and colored by and affected by knowing that there's a real person in there. Versus people who come in who think of it as a game and who don't make that kind of connection, that qualitative human-to-human connection with someone else who happens to be an avatar.
I think you get, I've also had a lot of instances where people have actually come in and they have realized that they're surrounded by real people, and that has actually conversely scared them for some reason. You know, they can't cope with that number of people, and when they realize they aren't looking at cartoons but they are looking at real people manipulating the avatars, they suddenly think, oh god, I can't cope with this, and they hide away from it from that. But I actually think what Maria said is great sort of criteria. I actually have on the status symbol thing, the ownership of originals. I think there's a curious thing here that might be an anomaly, because we have seen it in Second Life, and that is an artist will come in and create a unique work, even though it's a virtual work. Maybe a whole sim or something like that. And I know there have been occasions where the original build, the original work, has been sold to collectors at a very high price. The collector's taken an OAR file or whatever and has it offline, and it is not duplicated. It's never been replicated anywhere else. That was part of the deal. So I can see that whoever has bought one of those artworks, I think one of Eshi Otawa's artworks, when she was doing actual artwork rather than fashion, sold that way. She got a lot of money for it, and obviously the person who bought it paid a lot of money for it, and they've probably got it sitting in their own computer as a one-off. So just like somebody knows there's no other Mona Lisa, there are just reproductions of it, this person could be sitting on an original virtual piece of art, and there are no reproductions of it anywhere because, being virtual, of course, it is copyable. So long as nobody has it and copies it. So I think, people that are buying something like that, the virtual goods, not really good, virtual pieces of art like that are actually slightly off kilter from your first statement. I can actually foresee a future where the value of virtual creations could actually have that status and value.
Well, that's true today. For example, was it the Wu-Tang Clan released their album, one copy for $5 million? That's a virtual product. I mean, and in fact, I say in an article, this is one way to create value for virtual products is to issue them in limited quantities or one quantity. Is to issue them with a high price tag to make them feel exclusive, to make them feel special. That this is a possible promotional marketing thing you can do with even virtual goods, because the same things that make something valuable in real life also transfer to the virtual world. I was thinking more of the whole, are we going to replace movies with VR? Are we going to replace personal relationships with VR? Well, no, because a personal relationship is unique. It's scarce. It's something to be proud of. So it qualifies under all these criteria that it's not replacing it with a virtual girlfriend or a virtual boyfriend is not something you're going to be proud of. It's not a unique experience. It's not scarce. Everyone can have that virtual girlfriend. Unless it's a special, unique, one-of-a-kind virtual girlfriend, in which case you can say, I have one of those. I'm the only one who has that. And I'm going to keep her locked up in my virtual dungeon all to myself. But, that would creep people out.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always going to be boundaries. I mean, I'm not sure. You mentioned cinema, for example, and I think it was one of the news items last week. One of the Hollywood companies is filming the first, 360-degree movie, which will require the Oculus Rift to watch the movie. You'll turn and. You're moving a 3D space in the movie, and the action will be taking place all around you. You probably need to watch the film a few times because your camera position, unlike a screen, which you're just looking straight on, your camera position will vary. So you want to rewatch the movie from a different camera view. Technology will, I think, interfere with even that.
One interesting thing I think is that very few mediums have disappeared. So we had cave paintings tens of thousands of years ago. We're still painting on our walls.
Yeah.
Sculpture, even though it's 3D and interactive, did not replace cave paintings. It just got added onto it.
Yeah.
Storytelling predates cave painting. We still turn on a TV at night to listen to somebody tell us a story or a funny joke. It's still around. Live music has not been replaced by recorded music, even though people were scared it was going to be. Everybody can have a recording. Why would you listen to it live? Because it's special. It's unique. And it's something to be proud of. See?
Yeah.
So movies did not replace radio. Television did not replace radio. We still have radio. The television did not replace the movies. And again, people were scared of it. Why go to a movie theater, pay all that money, travel all that distance when you can sit at home watch it on TV?
Yeah.
Well, because it is exclusive. It's a short time, it's a short period that the movie's available in the movie theater.
Big screen too.
It's a bigger screen. It's the popcorn. It's the social aspects. It's and you can date night because in fact the higher price tag is part of the appeal. You don't want to take a date you want to take a date somewhere special, and the movie is a special experience. So I don't think that video games are going to replace movies. I don't think 3D things that whatever you film with Oculus Rift, it's going to be a different medium. We still even have black and white movies.
Yeah.
It's a unique. We have black and white photographs. Even though we have color, there's still people making a living taking black and white photographs. These mediums are still, books are still around. Harry Potter was over 4,000 pages long. Kids read Harry Potter. The generation that grew up on video games and immediate gratification sat and read Harry Potter And not only that, forced me to drive them to opening night at Barnes & Noble so they can go to a Harry Potter release party.
Yeah. No, I mean well, Harry Potter's really, and forget the literary merits and everything else like that. It brought back literature, I think, to a whole generation.
It was a fun read, and it turns out that kids weren't reading because they didn't like reading. Kids weren't reading because the books were boring.
Yeah.
You give them an interesting book, and all of a sudden, they're all over it.
Yeah.
And now there's a whole genre of kid books that are fun to read, and that are being made into movies because they have a fun story. I mean,
and you know what? There always have been books that were a wonderful read that got turned into movies. That's really not something new. It's just that the current generation, I think there was a period in there when people were afraid that kids were going to stop reading, but kids have never stopped reading.
Right. It's a different medium. It's a different medium of expression, and it appeals to people at different times, and it often will appeal to the same person. The same person will read the book and go to the movie and buy the soundtrack and buy the costume and play the video game and go to the Harry Potter world and enjoy that property through multiple channels.
Also you have people like me who, for example, if I've read a book and it comes to film, I'll go see the film. But oddly enough, if I watch a film and then I'm faced with the book, I never get around to reading the book. But I think books are wonderful in novels and things because they're the original immersion. In many ways, your imagination runs wild. Somebody's telling you a story and maybe describing, if it's science fiction, an alien planet or something, doing their best to describe it, but they are triggering your imagination. There is something in the book or beyond the book that goes into your head where you're visualizing it. And it's a bit like Second Life, how many people would be here if we were 3D holograms that look like our real selves? The uncanny valley might actually frighten a few people. So the things that are missing from virtual environments at the moment, at least, are possibly things that really redeem it. And it's the same with a book, it does, where you get picturables too, and you get a painting on the cover maybe, but by and large, it's what's missing from the literature is the art in itself, but it's what's missing from that art form, the visualization, that is actually what attracts you to it, because the visualization just goes straight to your own imagination. And
now we have books on tape where you can listen to the actual author tell you the story. And that's about as primal as it gets. Somebody sitting telling you a story, that's like all the way back to the birth of our species.
I just think you need 2 CD players, one for the story and one for the ambient loop of crackling fire. And then you've got your immersion.
My thing is that when you're looking at virtual reality, the bottom line is it's going to add on to most of the stuff we have today. We're going to keep most of what we have. We're going to add on virtual reality. A trip to Everest virtually is not going to replace a real trip. It's going to be an add-on to the real trips for those people who can't make the real trip.
Yeah. And
it's going to increase the value of that real trip because it will expose more people to the idea that you could climb Mount Everest.
Yeah.
That this is something that you can do.
And in my case, it would simply save me from breaking my leg trying the real thing. I'm sorry.
Some things are better left to the virtual.
Yes.
To the experts. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I'm going to be giving a speech on this to the Society of Professional Journalists on Friday.
This is the Boston gig, isn't it?
In real life in Boston, yes. So I am going to be talking about the newspapers as a disappearing medium, that it's not scarce. There's no pride of ownership of owning a newspaper. It's a commodity. It's not unique. And you can make it scarce and unique, but you lose the whole you can sell individual prints of the newspaper and stuff, but it's not newspaper as we know it. When you do that, it becomes a collector's item, not a daily paper.
Yeah.
And so it's gone from being a manufacturing industry to being a broadcast industry, where instead of printing something and then distributing it, where basically you're a manufacturer, you become a broadcaster. Like online websites like mine and all newspapers' online websites are more like radio or television.
Yeah, both of us, we use Twitter. And Twitter, to me, is a broadcasting medium.
It is a broadcasting medium.
Even though what I do with it has, like, I know it's posting links, so it's hypertext, but, each post is a mini bulletin that could once upon a time have been print, like a newspaper.
Or read on the radio.
Yeah. So, but it is now, I could, although I'm doing the same thing, it's gone from news delivery as in papers to instant, broadcast. The burst of the broadcast just goes through, and you follow it if you want to.
Yeah, but my point is going to be that virtual reality is not going to reverse that. It's become a broadcast medium. If you're broadcasting it in virtual reality and you pretend it looks like paper, people are still not going to pay for it because it's still something that has zero additional production costs. You know, once you make the first one, once you've spent all the money to make the first one, each additional one is free. It's like with a TV show. Once you've produced the TV show, whether you have 100 listeners or 1 million listeners, the radio waves don't cost you any different.
Yeah.
So, and that's what the news media is in right now. And in fact, the same problem the virtual good producers have. Once you make your first jacket, all the other second copies of it are free. You don't have any unit production costs and distribution costs. So you have to create value out of artificial scarcity. Oh, it's a limited edition. This is my spring line. You can only get it this month, and then it's gone forever. So you have to build up value like that. You can't base value based on the production of it.
I wonder how many Inworld, clothes makers and stuff like that actually think that way and realize that would be a good approach to take.
Very few, because I'm hearing so often, this dress took me so many hours to make, and you're paying 10 cents for it, and you're complaining. Like, it doesn't matter. How much did that movie cost to make that you're watching for free on TV or watching for free on Hulu? The production costs of an item are meaningless when the copying costs and distribution costs are free. Yeah, because over time, the price of every good is going to be reduced down to the cost of producing one more item. Yeah. Because the cost you've spent making it in the first place, they've already been spent.
Yeah.
Now, not right away, but over time. So, movie costs $20 or $10 when it first comes out, $20 on video, and then 5 years later, it's free on TV. So, over time, it's going to go down to a zero cost, and you have to be prepared for that. It doesn't matter how much time it takes you to make it. That question is meaningless. It costs millions to make TV shows. They're still broadcast for free.
Yeah.
It's not a question of production costs. It's a question of incremental costs. And the only way to battle that is with artificial scarcity, pride of ownership, and differentiators like add-on services and stuff like that. And so you have to focus on that. What differentiates the particular product? Like, for example, customer support, that kind of things. Is it unique or at least rare? And do people feel proud of owning it? And so you have to create that for your products in order to be able to set a price for them.
Food for thought, indeed. Right. And the trouble is, I am prone to sometimes thinking while I'm doing this show, so that's not a good idea. I think this is a subject we'll come back to in future weeks, actually. I'm also appreciative of the time here. I have promised certain parties that I would try to keep this show under
3 hours.
Yeah, well, no, actually under 2 hours. So wow. we have about 7 minutes left, and it's just for practical purposes, and the fact that I don't think sponsors and stuff like that for filming. before we wrap up, Tara, any quick responses on what Maria's been saying there?
It's really good stuff, and apropos of that, and perhaps related, is a topic that NRPA picked up on from the discussion in Dragster's radio show this week of a couple of educators who talked about Ebbe and particularly Ebbe's comments during Virtual World's best practices in education, and that also Botgirl Questi commented on. And I'll just share the quote because I think it's salient to your comments, and it's kind of the flip side of the picture, and that is Botgirl's quote that Inara quoted was, "Mainstream use of virtual worlds requires compelling mainstream use cases that clearly trump other options. Better technology doesn't matter to people who don't know why they want to use a virtual world at all." That's the challenge that no one has successfully addressed, and Botgirl is absolutely spot on that, I think. There are certainly some industry-specific things you can point to. There's certainly, I think, a bunch of stuff in education you can point to. But, it's that what can virtual worlds offer that truly trumps anything that you can do right now in a way that's compelling. So, it's kind of like, what's the killer use case? For virtual worlds. Yeah. And I just want to leave that open as not to launch a discussion on it, because I think it's a topic that has lots of directions it can go. But
I could talk forever.
That's why I say it's just just to kind of put that in the pot and let that stew along with your very insightful views on things. And on that note, I'm going to shut up and say it's been great seeing everybody this week.
Okay, yes, I was just thinking if we ever get dead air on this program, which never seems to happen, we'll just dig up those and start all over again. Petlove, any comments, and also anything exciting you've got coming up? Or
I was very interested, Maria, when you talked about art that's created, and some people will collect it and keep an original and the only copy. They'll pay for that privilege. It reminded me of the cell art you can buy from the old way they used to do cartoons. They had the acetone films, exactly. And I think that's really neat. That's the first time I've heard about that in relation to virtual art, and I think something some creators could shoot for if they're trying to supplement their income.
And
it's
then
nice.
Remember to tell a good story of how you suffered while creating this art.
Oh, yes.
Because pain and suffering always increases the value of something.
Oh, yes.
Ideally, you would want a previous owner who was cursed.
Or somebody who went cross-eyed, got divorced, their children won't speak to them anymore. But look at this art.
I'm in agony here. But you don't know what it's taking to create this show.
Okay now.
Yeah. So there's a lot of work involved, though. People don't realise it. We were talking about this the other day, but that was another conversation. Okay, so that was your wrap as well, Tara, I guess, was it? Or was there anything else?
Yes, that was my wrap.
Okay. Anything coming up, Petlove, or anything? Any last-minute thoughts about things coming up?
Last week I mentioned a film on virtual abilities entrance into the Freedom Project for UWA.
Oh, yeah.
And that thing is actually nearing completion. That should be out in a day or two. Happy Hunting, which changed its format from 50 to 10 minutes weekly as opposed to bi-weekly. It's so interesting. Our hits have doubled, tripled, even quadrupled on YouTube with no special advertising, just as a result of making our shows shorter. And I thought that was very interesting.
I think that is symptomatic of the age, bite-sized.
Well, I'll take it.
Popular.
I'll take it. I mean, hunting continues to be a fantastic thing, particularly for new people to do. I would really love to see Linden Labs incorporate the hunts where people can get really good things for free to get them started in their second life, those who are inclined to do so. And really, that's my basic rant for the week. Thank you.
Great. Anything else, Maria, just before we...
Well, I wanted to say, if you ever want a topic that will always has a lot of controversy, we can always argue the benefits of closed versus open grids.
Yep.
And the hypergrid. It always stirs people up in the comments and gets people very strong opinions on both sides.
Indeed. In fact, it's when issues like that come up, I'm actually grateful that we don't actually have a live audience except in the chat, except in the channel chat room. Can you imagine if I was trying to cope with a text flow from an in-world audience? Okay, well, we're more or less bang on 2 hours, so I'm going to wrap up the show rather quickly today, so we can say yes, it was a 2-hour recording. We will be back, of course, same time, same place next week. If you're watching on Real Virtualities, the full week in review playlist is coming up shortly, including a lot of RL Meta World news items that we didn't run at the front today. They've been sort of repackaged behind the scenes here, so they're going to run after us. And then all the usual machinima arts and everything else. So do keep watching. If you're watching this in replay, thank you for watching too. And you can find the Inworld review on its own. You can find my channel to YouTube, or better still, you can actually go to slartist.com, and you can also get there. You can actually replay all the Inworld reviews, back episodes, as it were, to via that side. So thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will return. As yes, it's like the end of a James Bond film. It says James Bond will return. Well, the Inworld review will return
after these messages.
Something like that. Okay.
Don't change the channel. All right. Well, thank you for having me here. It's been a pleasure. Visit me on the line at www.hypergridbusiness.com.
Okay, Madam Maria.
Meta Maria.
Oh, you guys are the best.
Darn right. He's really singing now. Okay. He's really singing now.
Oh. Well, I think we're off air. I revisited the channel, but...
I will stop Procaster.